8 engines and 5 crew members on the same line, and they're on a collision course. Welcome to the Kelso train collision. On November 9th, 1993, Union Pacific MPSEZ-09, or train number 9, was at a yard at North Platte, Nevada, getting ready for its long trip towards Seattle, Washington, with the engineer and the conductor were called on duty at 8:15 p.m. The train consists of 3 engines, 79 loaded cars, and 4 empty cars, with a total of 83 cars on the train, with UPC 40-7 on a 2475 reading, followed by 2 SC40-2s, 3388 and 3515. The engineer was hired by the UP by 1980 as a laborer, became an engineer by 1991, and he has been working for the railroad for approximately 6 years. The conductor, meanwhile, was hired by the UP by 1964 as a brakeman. He was promoted by July of 1974 as the conductor, and he has been working for the railroad for about 29 years. After checking to make sure the train was ready to go, train number 9 receives an OK to leave the yard, and train number 9 was on its way towards Seattle, Washington. next afternoon, on November 10, 1993, at Walmart Yard at Inner Bay, Washington, BN train number 111 was preparing for its trip towards Vancouver, Washington, with an engineer, conductor, and brakeman were called on duty at 4:30 p.m. The train consists of 4 engines, 85 loaded cars, and 5 empty cars, with a total of 90 cars on the train. With BN SC40, number 8160 leading, GP38-2, number 2255, GP39-2, number 2729, and GP9, 1954. The engineer was hired by the BN by 1979 as yardman/brakeman. He was soon promoted as the engineer by 1980 and has been working for the railroad for 14 years. The conductor was hired by 1969 as the brakeman and a conductor until January of 1990, where he remained in his position as a conductor, and has been working for the railroad for 24 years. The brakeman was hired in 1964 also as a yardman/brakeman. He took some time off from BN between 1965 and 1967 for military service, and has been working for the railroad for 29 years. After Train 111 received an okay to leave the yard, Train 111 was ready to go. Evening, at 6:13 p.m., Train 111 arrives at the Stacy Yard in Alga, Washington to do some work. The train was ordered to pick up 25 loaded cars and 2 empties. picking up 27 cars and doing an air brake test, 111 departs Alger, Washington at 7:05 p.m. At 8:10 p.m., train 111 stops at Tacoma, Washington to get an add-on for the remainder of the trip. The locomotive in question was Montana Rail Link ST45-2 number 305. It was built in 1974 as Clinchfield ST45-2 number 3621. It was later sold to the Seaboard system before being sold to Montana Rail Link, and was also recently been leased to the Burlington Northern Railroad. Getting an add-on and receiving an OK to leave Tacoma, train 111 departs Tacoma towards its final destination at Vancouver, Washington. is the moment a countdown to a collision has begun. Moving on to the very next day, November 11th, 1993, at Kelso, Washington. It's midnight and the fog was rolling in. Train 09 and Train 111 are now face to face on the same track, which is track 2. However, there is a safe way to pass each other without any incidents. 111 has an approach at milepost 100.7, telling Train 111 to slow down and prepare to stop at the very next signal, at milepost 102.8, to let number 9 cross over from track 2 to track 1, so 111 can continue on track 2. At milepost 102.8, both trains finally came into view. And as both trains got closer and closer to each other, disaster struck. The two trains collide head-on at 12:24 a.m. 2475 overrode 305 before landing on the tracks at a 90-degree angle and upside down on the BM trailing units, with its engine compartment crushed. 3388 also landed upside down and partly on top of the front half of 2475, with the trucks and fuel tanks ripped off from not only 3388 but 2475 as well. 3515 meanwhile suffered damage on its left side and rear end. The cab of 305 was sheared off, and the rest of its body was obliterated during the wreckage. A160's right front had been crushed by the short hoods of 305 and 3515. 2255 stack landed across track 2, with its superstructure and trucks being ripped off from the engine except for its fuel tank. And 2729 and 1954 were also destroyed. To make matters even more dire, 6 of the 8 locomotives' fuel tank were erupted and setting the crash site on fire, turning the crash site into a war zone. Finally, at 12:36 a.m., rescuers finally arrived, including 9 Class A fire trucks, 12 water tenders, 4 medical aid units, 2 private ambulances, 5 mini pumpers, 6 command units, and 6 support vehicles. It took a lot of effort to battle the fire, but finally at 2:38 p.m., the fire was brought under control. Rescuers soon started searching for any survivors. Sadly, no one survived on the collision. All 5 crew members from both trains perished at the scene. An investigation from the NTSB found 2 factors from the crash. The first one was a crew of train 111 who failing to observe the signal on milepost 100.7, telling the train to slow down and prepare to stop at the next signal. And the other is the lack of redundancy in the centralized traffic control system. Contributing to the accident was a lack of a positive train separation control system. But why did train 111 fail to observe an approach at milepost 100.7? Well, there was a possible fault. At the time the collision occurred, it was foggy. It was unknown how bad it was, but it could have been possible that the crew of 111 didn't see the yellow signal due to the fog. If so, then this sort of scene would have been eerily similar like the 2004 Separate Hills train collision, when the CSX Rock train collided with a CSX Manifest at Separate Hills, Florida, due to the Rock train failing to observe the signals up ahead, most likely due to the fog. In the end, 305, 2729, and 1954 were all destroyed and never ran on the rails again. 2255, meanwhile, was repaired, put back into service, and still continues to operate with BNSF. 8160 was also repaired and put back into service. In the early 2000s, it was sold to the HOCX and remained in service until it was retired again by 2012, and 8160 was scrapped not long after. 2475 was deemed damaged beyond repair, retired by 1994, and scrapped. 3388 was also deemed damaged beyond repair and scrapped. 3515 was repaired and returned to service, and still continues to operate today. It's been 28 years since this collision occurred. However, this was not the first time a train failed to observe a signal or signals due to the fog, as another train ran past a similar danger due to the fog at Utah years before. But as Victor Tanzik would say, that's the story for another day.